You walk into the kitchen and stop dead. You had a reason, a clear, specific reason, and it's gone. Not faded. Gone. Scientists first mapped this in 2006 and named it the doorway effect. But here's the part nobody talks about. Going back to the room where you remembered it doesn't help. The forgetting already happened. So what exactly did your brain just do to you? By the end, you'll understand that the blank feeling in the doorway is not memory failure. It is a deliberate purge, and going back will never restore it. This has happened to you hundreds of times. You stood in a hallway, blinking under fluorescent light, mouth slightly open, the ghost of a thought hovering just out of reach. You retraced your steps. You stood very still. You pressed your fingers against your palm like that would help. It didn't, because the information wasn't hiding. It was deleted. And here's the thing that should bother you. You didn't consent to that deletion. Your brain made an executive decision about your own intentions without asking. It rewrote your mental desktop mid-task. The editor was inside you the whole time. But stay with me, because the reason it does this is stranger than you think. Let's go back to 2006. A cognitive psychologist named Gabriel Radvansky is sitting in a lab at the University of Notre Dame, watching test subjects forget things. Not random things. Specific things. Things they knew seconds ago. He's starting to notice a pattern so clean and repeatable it almost looks like sabotage. Radvansky gives people objects to carry through virtual rooms on a screen. Simple task. Remember what you're holding. But every time a participant crosses a virtual doorway, not a real one, a digital line on a monitor, their recall drops sharply. The walls didn't move. The lighting didn't change. Only the threshold crossed, and memory fell through the floor. You felt that drop. It has a texture, a kind of hollow thud behind your eyes, like reaching for a word in a dream and finding warm air. Your thoughts were right there. Vivid, purposeful, real. And then the door frame slid past your shoulders, and something cold and invisible ran a magnet across the hard drive. Radvansky called what he found the event segmentation theory. The idea is this: your brain doesn't experience life as one long, continuous film. It chops reality into chapters. Each room, each location, each distinct environment, that's a new chapter. And when you start a new chapter, the previous one gets filed away. Filed away sounds gentle. It isn't. Your hippocampus, the small curved structure that smells like old library in every neuroscience diagram, doesn't just archive the last chapter. It actively clears the working surface so you can load the new one. Think of it as closing 17 browser tabs at once. Efficient. Brutal. But what you haven't heard yet changes everything. Because Radvansky didn't stop at virtual doorways. He ran the experiment again in a real building with real hallways and real doors, and the result was identical. Distance didn't matter. Time didn't matter. The physical threshold was the trigger. A frame of painted wood, the width of your shoulders, was enough to wipe your mental whiteboard. Hold that thought. What comes next is darker. Your hippocampus is not neutral. It is ruthlessly, almost coldly, pragmatic. It asks one question continuously: what information is relevant to where you are right now? When you were in the living room, your intent to grab the charger was relevant. The moment you crossed into the kitchen, your hippocampus silently answered its own question. That was then. This is now. Relevance terminated. Picture it like a stage crew working in the dark. You're the actor, you're delivering your lines, and while you're mid-sentence, mid-thought, mid-intention, they are already striking the set behind you. The couch slides into the wings. The props vanish into black bags. When you turn around, there's nothing there. Not because you forgot, because it was cleared. This happens roughly 40 times a day for the average person moving through a home or office. 40 small editorial decisions made about your consciousness without your input. 40 moments where the self that walked in is not quite the self that walks out. Most of the time you don't notice. Sometimes you do, and it feels like being mildly haunted. Here's the sensory truth of it. You're standing in that doorway and your mouth tastes like the beginning of a sentence with no ending. Your fingers curl slightly like they were about to reach for something. There's a faint tension behind your sternum, not pain, more like the echo of urgency. Your body remembers having a purpose. Your mind has already moved on. Radvansky's third experiment hit harder. He had participants travel the same physical distance, same number of steps, same effort, but some crossed a doorway and some didn't. The walkers who crossed the threshold forgot significantly more. Same distance, different outcome. The door itself was doing the forgetting. A passive wooden rectangle was rewriting working memory. That detail should land like a cold stone in still water. A door frame you've walked through 1,000 times has been quietly reorganizing your thoughts each time. Your kitchen entry, your office door, the threshold of your own bedroom. Every one of them a checkpoint, and your hippocampus has been stamping your mental passport and waving the old you through to the archive. But here's where it gets personal. Because this isn't just about lost grocery lists. This is about the version of you that existed in the other room, the one with the plan, the idea, the half-formed sentence you were about to say. That version is gone. Not retrievable. The file isn't corrupted. It's been deliberately compressed and shelved. And in a moment, I'll tell you exactly why your brain considers this a feature, not a bug. But first, you need to understand what your hippocampus actually thinks it's protecting you from. Your hippocampus evolved in a world where context meant survival. If you were hunting at the river, you needed river thoughts, current speed, mud depth, the smell of prey downstream. The second you moved into the forest, river thoughts were dead weight. Carrying them used energy and slowed reaction time, so evolution built a delete function into the geography of your daily life. That delete function has a sound, not a literal one, but if it did, it would be the soft thump of a heavy book closing. All your intentions, suspended in midair a moment ago, suddenly dropped. And the silence that follows, that blank, slightly cotton-mouthed pause in a doorway, that is the sound of your brain completing a very old and very efficient subroutine. Now here's what most people do wrong. They go back. They retrace the steps, cross the threshold again, stand in the original room looking for the lost thought in the carpet or the light or the furniture. And sometimes it comes back. But not because the room held it. Because re-entering the previous space reactivates a memory cue, triggers a chain of association, and you reconstruct the thought from residue, not from storage. You built it again. You didn't retrieve it. There's a difference between reconstruction and retrieval, and it matters. Retrieval is pulling a file. Reconstruction is rebuilding it from fragments, the color of the room, the sound you were hearing, the feeling in your chest, and assembling something close enough to the original that it feels like memory. But it's a replica. The original is gone. It was gone the moment you crossed. So what can you actually do? The research points somewhere practical. Radvansky's findings suggest that the event model, the mental chapter your brain builds around a task, is the unit of memory, not the location. Which means, if you keep the event model intact before you cross, the threshold has less power over you. Say it out loud before you leave the room. Say the thing you're going to do in the next room. Your voice, vibrating your throat, hitting your own ears, registers as a new sensory input, a fresh anchor for the event model. You've written it into the new chapter before it started. The door frame opens. The hippocampus runs its purge, but the spoken memory survived because it was already on the other side. Write it on your hand. Set the object near the door. Put the charger in your pocket before you walk to get the charger. These aren't hacks. They are literal workarounds for a neurological subroutine you cannot override. You are not smarter than your hippocampus. You are not going to outthink the delete function. You are going to root around it with the dumb, elegant tools of pen and voice and physical object. And now the part that quietly reframes all of it. The purge is not your enemy. Your brain is not broken or clumsy or disloyal. Every time your hippocampus clears the whiteboard, it is making room, full, uncluttered, brilliant room for where you are right now. It is betting everything on the present moment. It is saying, you are here now, and here is what matters. And that's worth understanding more deeply than you might expect. Think about what it would feel like if it didn't clear. Every room you entered still humming with the noise of every previous room. The kitchen thick with bedroom thoughts, with living room feelings, with the residue of 17 earlier intentions. You'd be carrying the entire day everywhere like wet clothes. The doorway would offer no relief, no fresh start, no quiet. The doorway effect is, at its core, your brain's most aggressive act of presence. It forces discontinuity so that each new environment gets your full, unencumbered attention. It is ruthless and it is elegant, and it has been running inside you since before you could name it. The problem was never the forgetting. The problem was that nobody told you it was supposed to happen. So you walk into the kitchen and stop dead. The thought is gone, not hiding, gone. And now you know your hippocampus just closed a chapter, struck the set, and handed you a clean stage. Going back to the living room won't restore it. The purge already ran. That blank, hovering, cotton-mouthed moment in the doorway, that's not failure. That's your brain choosing you, the present you, over every version of you that came before. Tell me in the comments, what were you going for the last time this happened?